When we think of vampires, it's easy to conjure up images of cloaked figures sleeping in coffins by day and turning into bats by night. But for one Parisian gent, drinking blood was not only a story for fairy tales, but a lifestyle choice. And sadly, his taste for the macabre did not end at the bank. Join us for the story of Nico Claux, the vampire of Paris. Welcome, spooky people, to this episode of Horror House. My name is Amy.
And I am Dom.
And we are here to remind you that despite what the news and probably your parents tell you, it's perfectly okay to seek comfort in a warm blanket of serial killers and human depravity.
Yes.
Dom, how are you?
The best kind of blanket.
Best kind, the warmest.
Best kind, the warmest.
Sometimes made of human skin, but
Why
if you
would
get past that, it's fine.
Yeah. If Ed Gein offers you a blanket, don't take it.
Say yes and sell it on eBay.
I'm good.
There's a huge market for it.
Yeah, I'm good. I am good. There was some exciting things that were announced the other day. One of them I messaged you about.
You did.
Which was that Universal released official photos of the Ministry of Magic ride, or queue, of the new land that's going to be in Epic Universe, and it looks ridiculous. Get it? Because isn't that a spell? Ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
It looks. It looks insane. Absolutely insane.
Does it?
Like the concept art looked good, but then
it's so pretty.
It is, and the roof bit, I was like, is that CGI?
I like it that you're pointing to where the roof is.
Where the roof is.
Audio
yeah.
listeners, he's doing like
I'm pointing up to my
gesture
roof
towards the ceiling. Thank you for letting me know where the roof is, just in case
you didn't
I wasn't aware.
Just in case you were like, is the roof down there?
But what does he mean, roof?
What is this roof you're talking of?
Never heard of this.
But yeah, I think that was probably my favourite part, was like the cloudy sort of effect. I was like, how are they going to pull that off? Because I'm like, is that CGI? Is that
I
practical?
have a weird relationship with Potter, because I do like it. I do like Harry Potter, and I think aesthetically I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the movies, I'm not massively into. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I've recently played through Hogwarts Legacy like 4 times because I had to do it in one of the 4 houses. It just became a bit of a hyperfixation for a little while. I had to do it in all 4 houses to get all the little house-specific side stories. And I fucking loved that. That was incredible. I've been to like the Warner Bros. Studios tour. Like, I've done all of that stuff. And I absolutely love it. But I can't remember genuinely the last time I sat down and watched a Harry Potter movie.
Yeah.
But I like everything around it. But I don't think I massively love the actual story, and that's I guess that's kind of a weird thing to have.
I would, to be honest, I would say like I'm probably the same. I haven't watched the movies since I was a kid, and I don't think I actually watched all of the movies anyway. I think I stopped at maybe 4. But I think I know,
You've
right?
never watched all of the movies?
I haven't read.
I mean, I'm not saying that. I've watched them all.
I haven't watched them. I have read all the books, in my defense, but I haven't watched all the movies.
Yeah, I've read all the books. I think there was a time where reading the books was just, if you weren't doing it, there was something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not read them?
Yeah, and I think
and everyone was reading them as they came out, and you kind of had to be doing that to be up to date.
And I don't know if it's with the movies. By the time that, the tail end of them came out, I was a bit older, and I just wasn't as invested in it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
I think I went to a midnight screening of the last one.
Did you? Hardcore.
I know. I'm saying I started this whole conversation with, I'm not even really that much of a fan of the movies.
And then you were like, I'm pretty sure I went to
a midnight screening of the final one. But that's what I mean. Since then, I think I only ever watched part 2 of the last one, so the Deathly Hallows part 2. I only ever watched that a midnight screening, and then I just never watched it again.
Yeah.
And that was probably the last time I watched one of the movies, if I'm being completely honest. Like, other than the odd little glimpse of it on like ITV2, because apparently they have to show all of the Harry Potters in the run to Christmas on
Absolutely.
ITV2.
Absolutely.
Other than that, I've never really sat down and thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch a Potter.
I think I'm the same because, like I said, I haven't rewatched the movies. I haven't reread the books. I haven't played Hogwarts Legacy, but it does look fantastic. But like the aesthetic, like the Wizarding World at Universal, looks stunning. And it's one of the things that I'm really excited about in February when I go back to Universal is actually spending a good amount of time. Because I've seen it before, I've been to Universal before, but that was for one day. So there was a lot that I didn't actually get around to do. So I'm really excited to see that. But like this new ride at Epic Universe in the Ministry of Magic, like I said, the official images just look outrageous. Like so good. Also another thing I'm excited about, and not that I'm counting down to this, and granted this isn't till next year, and this isn't Universal. In 210 days, we will be singing our hearts out at Hercules the music.
Oh my god, you've got an actual countdown. Wow.
Not an actual countdown. I went on Google and said how many days until the 19th of June. And then put it as a note.
Yeah, I thought you had like a little calendar set up and everything. I'm not that far in advance.
Nope.
Like my brain only works about 2 hours in advance. So if I've ever accidentally forgotten, this goes to anyone that listens to me that knows me in real life. If I've ever forgotten plans or I've not showed up on time, it's because I don't remember. You have to remind me.
Yeah, of course.
But yes, I'm very excited for it.
I can't wait.
Need to rewatch the movie at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah,
I
same.
think.
Same.
Which is doable before June.
Yes, absolutely. I need to rewatch it, but I'm buzzing because
it's going to be good. It's getting pretty sold out as well. Like it's pretty.
Yeah, I was quite lucky because with O2, they did a pre-sale about 3 days before general sale, so I managed to bag our tickets on the pre-sale. But even then, a lot of the seats were already taken. So obviously it's going to be very popular, but I can't wait. I love Hercules. I don't know where I would rank it, but it's one of my favorites. And whoever decided that movie needed a gospel soundtrack is a fucking genius.
He is a genius.
Like,
that is.
Disney have got some amazing...
Have you seen as well that they're doing a Hades?
Yeah.
It's not a remake, but it's like a...
I'm quite intrigued, actually, to see what they do with Hades for the musical. Because
I think it'll be good.
I'm quite
there's
protective
so much they can do
over him because he's my favorite villain. I love him.
He's a good villain.
So yeah, I'm very excited. And speaking of Hercules,
we shall see.
I know that I still need to do my true crime news update, but speaking of Hercules, there were some little factoids that I found about the animated film that I thought would be quite interesting to share because you might not know these names.
Okay.
And they're all about Hades, as it stands.
As in the actual Hades or the Hercules Disney version of Hades?
The Disney version of Hades, not the actual Greek god, because the Greek gods in Hercules are quite different.
Yes, just a smidge.
To how they are in actuality. Let's start off with this one, because this one's one of my favourites.
Let's follow this tangent.
Don't worry, we'll get to true crime news in a second.
And the case, which is quite long.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. So
it's our podcast, we'll do what we want.
Exactly. So factoid 1, when Hades delivers the line, quote, guys, relax, it's only half time, when Hercules cuts himself out of the Hydra. That is 46 minutes in, so exactly the halfway point of the 92-minute runtime.
That is genius.
Which I thought was actually really cool.
I wonder if they had to specifically cut it.
I don't know.
46 minutes, or if it was planned.
Part of me is like, they did that like
fully on purpose.
And they were just breaking the fourth wall.
If they did, like, kudos, because that's fucking cool.
Yes. Factoid number 2. The role of Hades is one of James Wood's all-time favourite roles. So much so that anytime Disney needs him to reprise the character for a cartoon show or a video game, he has agreed to do so. So also when the film was about to go over budget, he offered to refund his entire salary and finish the film for free.
Oh my
Disney,
god, that's amazing.
yeah, Disney decided against it and just finished the film anyway and just went over budget.
Yeah.
But that's cool. Like, it's not very
That's
often
very cool. That's so
people
nice.
enjoy their role to that extent that they're like, oh, I'll do
Yeah.
the rest of it for free. It's fine. Don't worry, guys. I'm James
and
Woods.
give you I can give you the money you paid me back. That is not an issue.
And then factoid number 3. Hades was originally scripted as a slow, menacing character until James Woods took the role and impressed the crew with his rapid-fire style of delivery. As a result, even after the script was rewritten, Woods ad-libbed most of his lines.
That's cool. I think there's so much, not necessarily always Disney, they can be quite strict sometimes, but like when you find out that characters like that have ad-libbed a lot, you sort of end up going, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I think
like
I
Robin
read...
Williams with the genie, he ad-libbed a lot.
Yeah.
And you can just so tell, but it makes the character seem more natural.
Yeah. I think I read that he like modeled his sort of delivery after a used car salesman who was always trying to upsell you.
I love that.
Which I thought was quite funny.
Again, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So yeah, those are my Disney facts. People are groaning.
Awesome.
I can hear them. But hey, it's our podcast and I like Disney, so
yeah, you do.
It's
all good.
So as for the true crime news, I went back to the old reliable Florida man, and this is a genuine Florida man story, not like crime happened in Florida. This is a genuine, batshit insane Florida man story.
Yeah.
So are you ready?
Oh, I don't know. I always say that I'm ready for Florida man stories, and then I never am. So just go for it, and we'll see what happens.
So this is from Wink News, which is quite apt considering what this is going to be about.
Mm-hmm.
So the headline is: Man accused of attempted burglary while nude in Fort Myers covers head with only a white cloth. And I can hear people saying, which head are we talking about?
Okay.
So yeah, we'll give that time to marinate.
Just let that settle in. Yeah, sure. I've got a visual that I didn't really need, but yeah.
As did I, to be fair.
Fun.
So, quote, the Lee County Sheriff's Office arrested a man who stands accused of attempted burglary while wearing nothing but a white cloth over his head.
Of course.
Florida man doing Florida man things. Deputies arrested Gennaro Roschiti, age 30, on Friday, so last Friday, I believe, after the burglary call was made at a home located on McGregor Boulevard in Fort Myers.
I just don't know, how do you end up, when you're thinking about doing a burglary, at what point do you think, do you know what, I should probably do this naked?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I should probably just get my kit off for this. That's...
I
don't judge anyone for getting their kit off. I mean, Christ. But to do a burglary?
Yeah. He was like, so I've had all these unsuccessful burglaries. Do you know what it was? I wasn't wearing a towel on my head and I wasn't naked.
The clothes just always get in the
way.
way.
So if I do this, this might be successful. As it turns out, it wasn't.
Just do it in the bath. I always wonder as well, like, obviously I don't have one, so I don't know. But surely men being naked is even more, what's the word? Hazardous than a woman being
you
naked.
Because
what if it clips something? What if you get?
Well, that's it. Like if he's broken like a plane of glass to get through.
Yeah.
And he slices
don't climb over that.
Like this
that is
be
a scrotal injury.
Highly uncomfortable. So
you're
according
circumcise yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So according to the LCSO, the caller was sitting in his home on Thursday night when he witnessed a nude man with a white piece of clothing covering his face attempting to enter the building.
Of course.
He's like climbs in and he's like, he can't see me.
I can't see him, so he can't see me. That's how this works.
I'm invisible.
No, it isn't. Oh, that's such like a like he's 5 And he's just gone, I'm fine. I can't see him. So it makes perfect sense. Oh, bless. I feel a bit sorry for him now.
Oh, it gets better. Trust. So I haven't read this article yet. So this is a blind read. I'm reacting to this along with Amy. So while approaching the sliding glass window of the home, the caller activated his home alarm, which obviously spooked the man, and he fled in an unknown direction. Upon interview with law enforcement, the caller said that he recognized the man who attempted to enter his home the night before. The man was wearing the same headpiece along with a black backpack and blue clogs.
Okay. Wow, he has literally 3 pieces of not even clothing on, and they're not coordinated.
I know.
Interesting.
So the witness gave deputies footage from their Ring surveillance camera. God bless Ring surveillance cameras, honestly.
I love my Ring doorbell so much.
Which showed the man entering the properties while attempting to conceal his face. There we go. So Roskiti, I think that's how it's pronounced, has been charged with loitering and prowling.
You can be charged with prowling? I didn't know that was a thing.
Apparently so. And loitering as well. So don't loiter, because that might be...
I know, loitering, I can obviously, yeah, that's fine.
That might be
it's not fine. You'll get arrested for it. But prowling, that's okay.
So yeah,
I just walk funny.
That's my update, which I thought was... I had to talk about it because
it's ridiculous.
The mental picture I had when I didn't read the article, I just saw the Reddit headline, and that put a mental picture in my mind. And then I was like, I'm going to have to talk about this because it's phenomenal.
It needs to be spoken about. It needs to be
said
out loud.
When he was in police custody, I was like, man, I wonder why this didn't work. I thought it was. I really thought this was going to be the one.
The cloth wasn't big enough.
The cloth wasn't big enough.
I needed a bigger cloth over my head, obviously. Cool. Well, thank you for that. Today I am going to do something before we dive into the case of Nico Claux, the vampire of Paris. I'm going to do something that I haven't done for a little while, which is give some trigger warnings. Because
we should probably do that more often. To be honest.
We should probably do that more often. But part of me also thinks, like, if you are someone of a sensitive disposition who isn't here to hear about this kind of thing, then how did you manage to find your way here?
No, fair.
Like, I'm going to warn you about some of the things that we're talking about, and by all means, if they're things that you find triggering, hence the trigger warning, then by all means, leave. That's fine. We won't be offended. But how did you get here?
Yeah, no, true.
What? True. Why are you settling in the world of true crime if these are things that particularly offend you?
What went so wrong in your life that you have ended up here?
That you've decided to listen to us.
Yeah.
Like, it's, it's very confusing. So the trigger warnings for today's episode are cannibalism, necrophilia, corpse mutilation, and murder. Murder being one that we should probably put in every single episode because it's rare that we don't have one. But yeah, they're there. So we're going to be covering those in some pretty descriptive detail. So if you are weak of stomach or faint of heart, then now might be the time to duck out, and we'll see you next week.
Hope you enjoyed the Florida Man story and the Disney tidbits.
Yeah, enjoy, and we'll see you for the next catch up at the start of the episode. But yes, have you heard of Nico? Well, his name's Nicolas Claux, but I'm going to be calling him Nico because that's what he goes by. Have you heard of him?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
This is going to be an interesting one for you then. I hadn't heard of him either until I went to the serial killer exhibition that I spoke about maybe last week or whatever it was. And his paintings were part of the exhibition, and I was like, interesting. So then I thought, I want to know a bit more about this guy. I want to know. I want to get all up in his business.
Did he also get rejected from art school?
Not as far as I know.
No.
He's actually very good. If you do, I'll put links to websites and things in the show notes. But if you do, well, Dom will. I don't do anything really. But
you just come here and look pretty.
I just come here. I sometimes tell a story half-assedly and then I leave. And occasionally I bring other people on or, post about it on social media. But yeah, so he's actually quite good. If you like that kind of thing, then he's quite good. He does paintings of serial killers and like macabre stuff. So
on brand.
He's quite good if you like that sort of thing. So yeah. Anyway, that's completely unrelated to what we're actually going to be talking about today. We'll go over that later. But you've not heard of him, so okay, cool. Let me tell you his grisly tale.
I'm ready.
Nick, you ready? Good. I wasn't going to ask, but good. Nicolas Claux, or Nico, was born on the 22nd of March, 1972, in the African nation of Cameroon. Nico's father was a French citizen who worked in a bank and was often... Oh, sorry. I'm doing great. This is going so well. Can't even read my own notes. Nico's father was a French citizen who worked in a bank and was often sent with his family to foreign countries for longer periods of time. While Nico was far too young to remember his early years in Cameroon, he does recall moving to London around the age of 5, and then to the southernmost part of Paris when he was 7, and he remained there until he was 12, so 5-ish years. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about and telling the story of will be in Nico's own words, because there's quite extensive interviews with him online, so I'm just pulled quotes from him, basically. But he said, quote, "My childhood was basically normal, except that I was very withdrawn and only had a few friends. I was a lonely child, lacking brothers and sisters to play with, so I spent most of my time alone in my room." I'm an only child too, Nico. I totally
I'm not an only child, but adult me spends a lot of time alone in my room. So
same, it's, if that was an indicator of criminality, then I'm basically fucked, as are you.
Have you, do you ever stumble upon, like, someone, like, there'll be, like, a serial killer quiz, and you do it, or they'll be like, these are the signs of a serial killer, and you're like... Shit. Every one of those is me.
So, the other day, even more concerningly, I found a psychopath test online.
God, okay.
Which I did, because, you just do, don't you? And there's, like, obviously varying levels. You get a score out of 100, and then, like, 0 to 5 is certain things, blah, blah, blah. The top bracket is 80 to 100 is psychopathic tendencies. Hi, I'm an 89.
Oh, Amy.
And that was the best score I got. I also got a 92 and a 95. So when I joke about being a psychopath, it ain't a joke.
I'm going to bring bodyguards to the theatre with me, just as a precaution.
I mean, I'm not like, I don't have any... I don't have any desire to kill anyone.
Okay.
I don't feel like I should have to be saying that. I don't. Apparently, I just have some psychopathic tendencies, which... ain't really news.
This tracks.
So, Nico said, quote, "While my parents were very kind and gave me everything that I needed, I never really felt a strong bond between us. They never hugged me or kissed me. They just let me be on my own most of the time. Eventually, I grew emotionally cold. I had difficulties feeling empathy for other people and just indifference most of the time." Quote, "This is the time when I also developed a fascination for death and the occult. I would spend hours reading books on werewolves and vampires. A photo of the statue of the Sumerian demon Pazuzu especially fascinated me. I found it in a book my parents had bought in England. For me, it symbolised something extremely ancient and powerful, something that I respected. A few years later, I saw the same statue used in the movie The Exorcist, and my interest in the occult grew stronger."
Oh, okay.
Now, Dom, given what I disclosed to you before we hit record, is this starting to make a bit of sense? Because I always say, right, so there are two movies that heavily, heavily, heavily influenced me. I watched them both around about the same time. I was 11. I remember it very, very well, because one sparked my interest in all things dark, basically. Death, demons, all of that. And the other one sparked my interest in true crime, serial killers. One was Dahmer, which is Jeremy Renner playing Jeffrey Dahmer. That was the moment where I was like, not only am I obsessed with Jeffrey Dahmer, but I'm also obsessed with true crime. That was when I started loving it and wanting to learn more. And the second, the one that got me into like demonology and just general Satanism, really, to an extent, was The Exorcist.
Yeah.
So now,
do
you see why I'm kind of connecting with this guy?
Yeah.
At the moment, some of the stuff he does in a little while, not so
Also,
much.
I had no idea that Jeremy Renner played Dahmer in something once upon a time.
Not many people do. It's not, if I'm being honest, probably not one that Jeremy Renner would want to be remembered for. It was quite low budget. It's not the best movie in the world, but it was one, I remember it so well because it was so, I guess, formative for me. And because of how much I then went on to like study Dahmer and how much I know about him now.
Yeah.
I remember it really vividly. So I went to, it was when Blockbuster still existed, showing my age.
Oh God, yeah. Thanks for making us feel old on that.
Sorry about that. But do you remember in Blockbuster, you could obviously rent movies and take them home and bring them back, but they also had like discount bins. Like on the ones that they couldn't rent anymore, they would just have like DVDs or videos that were like super cheap. And you could just buy them and keep them. Well, I think I bought like 4 or 5 of them, and this movie Dahmer was one of them. I think I paid like $1.99 for it, and I sat down to watch it, and my parents let me buy it. Like, you know, they let me have it. But I was too young to watch it. I just don't think they understood what this movie was about. And if you ever see the cover for this movie, it's basically just Jeremy Renner's face. So they wouldn't have known, really. So I watched it, and that movie is vivid. Like, obviously, I'm not going to go into the whole Dahmer thing because I will be talking all day. But you see him, like, drill into this kid's skull and all this kind of stuff. So I'm sitting there as an 11-year-old lapping this up because, obviously, I'm a fucking psycho, apparently. And, yeah, it triggered that sort of, well, love for Dahmer, but also love for, like... But The Exorcist was the other one. Like I say, I watched that when I was 11. I was at a sleepover. All the other girls were shitting themselves, so left me alone in a conservatory where we'd been watching it. And I just was hooked. I had to finish the movie. They freaked out because at one point I was just sitting there laughing away to myself. And this is probably arguably the scariest movie ever made. So, yeah, both of those were very like, sorry, I'm giving you like a Amy history lesson.
No.
But it was very much those two movies that sort of shaped, I guess, who I am today without sounding too dramatic about it.
And
so I get why he was obsessed with The Exorcist. That's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, to be fair, The Exorcist is probably one of my favourite horror films.
Fantastic. It's still so good. It still holds up. It's still terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's been, I think it's 35 years this year. It's just insane. Arguably as well, my mum, when it came out, snuck into the cinema to see it on her own.
Hardcore.
And she was, I think, she must be 13, 14.
That's amazing.
And it finished. She loved it so much. She left the cinema, went round the back to the fire exit and snuck back in and did it again.
What a woman.
Showing. So,
what a woman.
Yeah, that's where I get it from. Mum, this is all your fault. So yeah, like I say, that was all just because he loved The Exorcist and so do I. And if he ever listens to this, then, you know, when Nico was 10, his grandfather died as a result of cerebral embolism. I believe it was during, they were playing some sort of game, like tennis or something, and his granddad just had this embolism and just dead.
Shit.
Which obviously when you're 10, pretty
probably terrifying. Yeah.
They'd also been arguing at the time, and Nico always felt that his family had blamed him for the untimely death. It was also a very critical moment in his life, and one that he claims made him literally obsessed with like physical death. And from then on, he says that he, as a result of that, became fascinated with burial rites, wakes,
Yeah.
and the atmosphere of morgues, because obviously as a 10-year-old, that's more than likely his first experience of anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the age of 12, so 2 years later, Nico and his parents moved to Lisbon in Portugal, where they remained for 4 years. He's lived in a lot of places for someone this young.
Yes.
He's
He's seen
moved
some
around a fair
countries.
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Paris,
Um,
Lisbon, damn.
yeah, exactly. And Cameroon when he was,
Cameroon,
I mean, he
yeah.
was born there, so
Jeez.
crazy. While the setting may have changed, Nico's obsessions remained the same. None of his fellow classmates, shockingly enough, shared his interest in death and the occult. And he was once again without friends.
Yeah.
His feelings of loneliness became more intense, and he began to feel an utter hatred to those around him. I'm really trying hard not to relate.
I mean, it's understandable, isn't it? How
It
he's
is
sort
understandable.
of been cast aside. So he's not going to develop good feelings for people in general, is he?
Again, I'm not trying to I do not want to be necessarily associated with this guy and some of the things that he did. But I do get it because my grandmother passed away when I was 8.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to go to the funeral. I understood death from age. But when you are that young, there's not many other kids in school that do get that.
No.
They haven't been to a funeral. They haven't, seen a dead person. And that is very tough. So you can't necessarily relate to people on that. I was very lucky and I did have friends and I was, I could kind of compartmentalize and I was fine. I mean, I say fine. I'm whatever I am. But, I get it. It's not something that someone that young should have to deal with.
No.
And it does kind of set you apart. Like your friends at that age don't want to be talking about dead people.
No, very true. Very, very true.
So yeah, it's a bit of an odd one. So Nico said, quote, "When I was 16, we moved back to Paris." So if you're keeping track of the map, we've gone Paris, Portugal, Paris again. Where I lived alone with my father. As far back as I can remember, I've been obsessed by graveyards. Before long, I knew every single cemetery in Paris like the back of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Between 1990 and 1993, I spent the majority of my time in graveyards. As a botanist studies plants and flowers, I would examine rusty locks and evaluate the weight of cement lids. My favourite things were mausoleums. The most impressive ones can be found at, I'm going to absolutely butcher this. Despite speaking French, I'm going to butcher this. I think it's Père Lachaise and it's in Montmartre, or the Parsi cemeteries.
Mm-hmm.
I would peek through their windows to see the inside. Some were decorated with furniture, paintings, or statues. It was not long before I began working on a plan to get a much closer view.
Yeah, I was about to say he probably would have tried to get in, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and I still think at this point it's not necessarily the strangest fascination. You only have to look at some of the big tourist cemeteries to, understand that it is fascinating. And some of these things are, very beautiful and people want to see them. So at this point, not necessarily the worst thing in the world, maybe a little bit strange, but not, horrific.
No.
Eventually, Nico crafted his own lock-picking tools, his favourite being an L-shaped key that he made himself. If a lock on one of the mausoleums was too rusty to pick, he would use a crowbar or enter through a window on the ones that had them.
Yeah.
Once inside, he says he felt, quote, like an emperor reigning in hell. And obviously the mausoleum would be his kingdom.
Yeah.
Oftentimes he said that he would enter a mausoleum during the day, only to resurface at night when the gates were closed and he could continue his activities without the fear of being discovered.
Yeah. Just a little mausoleum jaunt, as you do.
Yeah, just chilling out all day. It's sort of, when I wrote that bit in the outline, it kind of reminded me of the bit in Home Alone. When, it might be Home Alone 2, actually. When the two bad guys are hiding in the toy store in the little Wendy
Oh
houses.
yeah.
He's like, when the lights go down,
Yeah.
we come out of our little houses and then begin to rob. It kind of reminded me of that, but he's in a mausoleum in a graveyard. And obviously it's way worse than just robbing a toy shop. So yeah. But I just had that in my head.
Yeah. Little known fact, Joe Pesci was naked other than a blanket on his face in that scene.
Yeah. That was the first take.
Yeah.
And then the second one, he was like, "Do you want to just pop on a coat, maybe?"
Joe, you're not burglaring people. Like, why are you dressed in your Robin outfit? What's going on?
Yeah, clothes just get in the way of burglary. Everyone knows that. So Nico said that over time, simply lurking in graveyards and breaking into mausoleums, just cooking. Breaking into mausoleums was not enough to satisfy his desires. His fantasies became sadistic blueprints, tools for fulfilling his new cravings. Whether this change began at this point after he started breaking in mausoleums or years earlier when he witnessed the death of his granddad is, anyone's guess.
Yeah.
But it is clear that he believed that he needed to step up his antics to an entirely new level. Now, bear in mind, this is a quote from him. I haven't written this. This is literally his words. So, brace yourself, I guess.
Okay.
Quote, "I woke up one day with the sinister urge to dig up a corpse and mutilate it. I gathered a small crowbar, a pair of pliers, a screwdriver, black candles, and a pair of surgical gloves in a backpack. Then I took the subway until the Trocadero station. It was nearly noon. The gates of the Parsi Cemetery were wide open, but nobody was inside. The undertakers were out for lunch." What a great setup. Going well so far.
Jesus.
Right? I can feel you being like, okay, then what?
No, yeah, honestly, like, geez, tell me more. I need to know about this.
All right, well, quote, "I examined the casket for a while. It was solid oak and sealed with big screws. It looked brand new, so I expected to find a recently deceased corpse. First, I unscrewed the coffin, which took me less than 10 minutes. Then I pried it open with the crowbar. Once opened, a horrible stench of putrefaction came out of the box. It smelled like thanatil, which is the product that embalmers use to slow decay. It's one of the many chemicals they pump into bodies. The fact that he knows what it smells like is interesting.
Yeah.
So he's, got his coffin open. It's smelling delightful. Quote, "Then I saw the body inside. It was a half-rotten old woman, shrouded in a white sheet, covered with brown stains. Her face seemed to be smeared with oil, but it was simply the death fluids oozing from her skin. The stench was so intense that I nearly fainted. I lifted one side of the sheet, but it was glued to her petrified skin. The teeth were protruding from the mouth, but her eyes were gone. I stared into the empty sockets, and all of a sudden, something broke in my mind. I felt like I was falling into a whirlwind."
So that's when it broke, not when he woke up and decided, I'm going to go and dig up a body?
No. That part was fine. This is the part where he's like,
this is the
oh,
part
shit.
where it's like, maybe I've got a problem.
Okay. Yeah. And there was clearly some sort of break because, next, quote, "That's when I picked up the screwdriver. The corpse inside the coffin started to move slightly, like it had guessed what would happen next. So I began to stab the belly, the rib area, and the shoulders. I stabbed her at least 50 times. I can't really remember. All I can remember is that when I woke up, my forearms were covered in corpse slime."
Oh. Not the forbidden slime. Oh no.
Gross.
Yeah, that's grim.
Like
I wake up in the morning with the thought of making a cup of tea. Personally.
Yeah. I'm like, holy shit, I need to have a coffee before I even begin to think about functioning.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think, shit, do you know what I really need? Good corpse. I've just got the urge to just see a corpse today. It's really top of my priority.
Yeah. If I don't do this, it's not going to set me up for my day. I can't.
I'm just not even going to be able to think unless I see a corpse. You know, it's yeah. Bear in mind that was
hell.
him. He said that. All I can remember is that I woke up with my forearms covered in corpse slime.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can't even handle, like, taking out the bins and you get bin juice on you.
Oh, someone told me the other day, what was it called? You know where you go to take the bin out and you gather like the top of the bag and you get that like poof.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone called it bin breath.
Bin breath.
And I was like, oh, bin breath is actually the worst.
It is pretty
It
minging, to be
stinks.
fair. Yeah, I know it is. That's
But
very true.
the smell of a however many month old decaying corpse
Would be considered
fresh out of the coffin is probably worse.
Yeah. Just a
If
little
I had
bit.
to guess. Yeah.
It's close.
I've not smelt one, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be worse.
Wow.
So yeah, that's where we're at. Bear in mind at this point he's still only 16. You know, starting young.
Just a standard Monday for a 16-year-old.
For a 16-year-old, I mean, I can tell you what I was doing at 16, and it weren't that. At 20, Nico joined the military, where he was trained as a gunsmith, cleaning and repairing, weapons.
Yeah.
But he soon found that lifestyle boring, as you probably would if you've just mutilated a corpse.
Yeah, true.
His only satisfaction came from fantasizing about murder. After serving just a year in the military, Nico moved on and said that he began I can't speak today, I'm so sorry. That he began to consider a career as a mortician. Again, I have done that too. I've thought about having a career as a mortician, but not because I want to mutilate bodies, just because I think it's a nice thing to do for someone.
Yeah.
Like, I like the idea that you're the last sort of person that does something for them before they go to wherever the hell you go.
Yeah.
Excuse the pun. After you die.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just a nice thing to do. So I've thought about that too. But he obviously really considered.
Yeah, for all the wrong reasons.
All of the wrong reasons. And let me tell you, we ain't even at the tip of the iceberg. So Clow quote, in 1993, the one and only local school for embalming declined my application. So I began working at St. Vincent de Paul Hospital in Paris, a hospital for children. This was the only way I could really do what I wanted for a living, and I also found out that it was the best way to be in contact with a corpse.
Whoa.
Because that's got to be your aim, right?
Oh, Jesus.
What an interesting goal to have.
Why do you want this job? Well,
I hear there's corpses here. Do you got corpses?
I hear the progression is good. You know, here the work is really fulfilling.
Promotion opportunities.
Also
corpses.
Lots of corpses.
Obviously, yeah.
Oh shit! Oh crap! I think I said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, the bit that everyone told me to keep to myself, I've just accidentally told you.
Strike that from the record.
Don't let that put you off. So yeah, he wanted to be in contact with corpses. He said, quote, I was given the job of morgue attendant, and my first contact with a corpse there was when I assisted in the autopsy of a 10-year-old girl. The other attendant showed me how to stitch up her belly, and that was the first time I ever got to touch a fresh corpse. I was amazed by how red and clean her organs were.
Okay.
No corpse slime here.
No, yeah. He made sure of that. He was like, are the corpses going to be slimy before I take this job? This is very important.
Yeah. Talk to me about corpse slime, because, you know, I want hazard pay if that's going to be the case. So yeah, this was fresh territory for him. Very nice. Nico did not stay at St. Vincent de Paul for very long. And in December 1993, he took a position as a morgue attendant and stretcher bearer at St. Joseph's Hospital, which was obviously also in Paris. His duties involved helping with autopsies, cleaning up the morgue slabs, and preparing bodies for wakes. So lots of contact with corpses. But unfortunately, soon, Nico's habits of assisting in autopsies and raiding graves, which he was still sort of doing around this time, were no longer enough to satisfy his lust for death, and he would turn to something that most of us only ever see in our nightmares. And I think on that note, it's a good time for a break, don't you?
I think so.
Yeah. Make sure you come back hungry.
Or maybe not.
We'll see.
Maybe not with food, because that would be...
No, you don't want to be eating for part 2.
Eating on part 2, it sounds right.
But as tantalising as that sounds, we'll see you in just a few.
Yes.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us for part 2 of the story of Nico Claux, who I may or may not have a crush on. We'll find out at the end. Dom, how you doing? Are you feeling good? Are you feeling okay? Are you bearing with it?
Feeling slimy.
Ew. Oh no.
Oh no.
That's not good.
The forbidden slime.
Up to the forearm, or?
No, like I said during the break, this guy was probably somewhere in my brain. I might have seen a photo, or I might have read something at some point. But yeah, it sounds like an interesting fellow.
Yeah.
Kind of a product of his environment.
That's a nice way of putting it.
In a way.
Yeah, he's definitely I always don't want to say this because it makes it sound really flippant, but he's like a bit of a character.
No, yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and not necessarily in a good way.
Give me 2 seconds, my lovely. My housemate is calling me.
No problem. The bit where we leave a message for Dom, and Dom's housemate, who has very rudely interrupted recording. How dare you? Number 1. And number 2, also how dare you? That both the messages are how dare you. I'm actually not really that. But Dom's going to see this later and be like, what the fuck? Why do you just have conversations with yourself and the audience when I'm not there? That's not good. And he's probably right, but I got an 89 on my psychopath test, so that probably explains.
Pardon the interruption. I'm back.
That's all right. I had a nice little chat with myself and the viewers. It's all good. So, obviously, Nico now at this point has his job at the morgue, where he has contact with corpses and is regularly left alone with dead bodies, as you would expect from a morgue worker.
Of course.
This is a quote from him. Quote, "I would be left alone with the body after the autopsy to do the stitches, which were my speciality. This is when I began eating strips of muscles from the bodies.
Whoa.
I always checked out their medical files first. I talked with a butcher once who told me that the meat is better 3 or 4 days after death. This was something I'd always dreamed of doing, and it was the opportunity to do it on a regular basis."
Butcher just giving him tips. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Just bear in mind that's direct quote.
That's insane.
This is when I began eating strips of muscles from the bodies.
That's crazy.
Oh, okay. Cool. Totally normal. You know, earlier when I was like, mild crush. Oh my God, me and him are so alike. We'd get on so well. Here, no.
That's where it diverges a little bit.
No, honey. Thank you. But no.
Yeah.
This would be the thing where if me and him, not that I'm planning for the future or anything, but if me and him ever did hook up, I'd just be like, let's not talk.
Now, don't eat strips of me.
Brush your teeth, and then we're good. So yeah.
Were you nibbling on me last night? No.
Yeah. Why am I missing? Why are there bite marks? What are you doing? So yeah, he's crossed over into some pretty dark places. I think this is.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a corpse, in the morgue and you're like, I'm peckish. Yeah, maybe.
Probably not the
Maybe
profession
rethink
for
it.
you.
Maybe just go home.
Yeah.
I don't know, get a Macca's or something. You don't need to. You don't need to do this.
Get that double quarter pounder with cheese, and you'll be fine.
That's all you need. Quote, sometimes I brought select meats home with me to be cooked, but my preference was to eat them raw. It tasted like tartar steak or carpaccio. The big muscles of the thighs and back were good, but there was no good meat in the breasts, only fats. Good. Just want to put that out there. Quote, people often ask me what went through my mind the first time I indulged my cannibalistic fantasy. Well, to be honest, I said to myself, quote, wow, now I'm a cannibal. Cool.
I shouldn't laugh, but that's quite funny. So,
I mean, it's an honest answer. I believe him. I believe that that's what he thought.
yeah.
Like, I think there's when you look at serial killers and when you look at like series that they make about them, the movies that they make about them, everyone always looks for like, oh, what did they say? You know, what was the quote after the first kill or the first time Jeffrey Dahmer ate someone? What did he say? And they always try and make it like proper dramatic and like, you know, it has to be that big moment for the film. This guy was just like, cool, I guess I just eat people now.
Yeah. It's so simplistic.
Like he's not trying to make up anything cool. That's just what he thought.
Yeah. Very simplistic, very to the point. Also, I've never heard human flesh being compared to steak tartare. It's always been like pork or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends.
But I suppose
what part of the body it's from. And bear in mind, he's doing this like 3 or 4 days after death.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it becomes a bit, I don't know, a bit, I want to say gamier, but I don't think that's what I mean. But like a bit more matured.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's not something
Yeah.
that I massively want to consider if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, maybe it changes, you know, density and texture and things, and it becomes a bit different. But you're right. I mean, as someone that apparently talks about cannibalism a lot, I've always been told that it's porky.
That's like the most common sort of comparison, isn't it?
Yeah. Nico's other job at St. Joseph's Hospital involved working in the digestive surgery unit. One of his duties involved delivering the blood bags from the hospital's blood bank to the surgery room. He claimed that it did not take long for him to notice that it was not unusual for bags to be left over, and he eventually devised a scheme in which he would rip the sticker off the unused bag, making it appear to have been opened, and then hide it in his locker. At the end of his shift, he would transfer the bag to his backpack and take it home and begin cooling it in his fridge. Once the desired temperature was reached, he would mix the blood with powder proteins or human ashes and then drink it. Since there was no plasma within the bags, the blood was extremely thin, which was why he chose to thicken it with those powders.
Yeah.
Protein shake.
Yum,
Dom, you're going to the gym more these days. Do you fancy
I am.
A bit of blood protein?
I am.
You know?
Don't know. I might get some questionable looks from the people in the gym, to be honest.
I mean, you don't have to drink it in the gym.
Oh no!
In fact, if you're going to go with human blood, I'd advise not drinking it. I'd
be hardcore.
Gym, but
I'd be like, yeah,
fuck it.
This is human blood. You keep going on that treadmill. It's none of your goddamn business. Let me drink my blood.
I don't judge your pre-workout. Go away.
I don't judge your form. Don't judge me for my protein shake.
Yeah, no one's looking at your weights. Just, let me get on with my day and you get on with yours. But yeah, this is, the thing that was obviously prevalent in the press at the time.
Yeah.
And Vampire of Paris essentially was born when all this came out.
Mm-hmm.
All of this, all of the grave robbing, the cannibalism, the drinking blood, the mutilation of corpses, it still wasn't quite scratching that itch, when you just get that itch that you just want to fucking kill someone.
Yeah. It
wasn't scratching it. So on the morning of the 4th of October 1994, Nicolas Claux said that he decided it was time to turn another one of his fantasies into reality. So again, as if all of that wasn't enough, Nico was desperate to kill.
Yeah.
He spent his morning searching for a victim, any victim. Nothing mattered, not age, race, or sex. It just did not matter. He was just looking for death. Nothing more. He didn't want to make a statement. He just wanted someone to kill.
Mm-hmm.
So by the early afternoon, Nico decided to try his luck on Minitel, which is like an early version of the internet, mainly messaging based. And soon he began chatting with a man named Thierry about bondage and S&M. After a while, the two decided to get together, and the man gave Nico the address to his home. Little did Thierry know that sex was the last thing on Nico's mind.
Yeah.
Do you want to know the main scariest thing I took away from writing that part of the outline?
Go on.
The internet is only just starting in 1994. Only just starting to become a thing.
Yeah, it would be the sort of very early days of it, wouldn't it?
The internet became a thing in our lifetime.
It did.
Yeah. Suck it, millennials.
And the kids of today who only know high-speed internet will never know the pain of dial-up.
Of AOL dial-up.
Oof.
Oh, God.
Like, if you wanted to use the internet and someone was using the phone, well,
fuck no.
you're fucked. If you wanted to download porn, then you're gonna be waiting like 1 pixel every half an hour. It's
not gonna happen.
It's hard
if you
work.
wanted to go on MySpace and chat with your crush, which believe me, I did every single day after school. I had an hour because they charged you hourly.
Oh God, yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah. It wasn't a monthly fee for all inclusive broadband that does absolutely everything all in one go. No. You had one point of connection. You got it for an hour because after that it would charge you for a second hour, and my parents didn't want me to stay online for that long.
It's wild, isn't it? I saw a reel or a TikTok the other day of someone being like, what if we had phones which were like connected to the house? And I was like, oh my God, that's a landline.
Oh my God, we've come full circle.
They don't know what a landline is.
I don't know what a landline is.
Oh God. I was like, how old am I? You
don't have to remember your best mate's phone number so you can call them because you didn't have a phone, like an actual phone where you could store the number. You had to remember the number and then go home to your landline to call them.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
And we haven't
kids today.
We haven't even talked about the horrific dial-up tone either, if you wanted to actually use your internet. Oh
God.
Yeah.
Also, just to clarify, we're talking about a man here who's just gone on a very early version of the internet to find a man to kill after having eaten and desecrated corpses. But the thing that we're really annoyed about is dial-up.
Yeah. I mean, he probably was as well, to be fair. He was like this fucking internet. I want to do my thing.
Using Minitel probably cost him money. So he's going to want to get his money worth, right? Nico agreed on meeting Thierry at around noon. With him, he carried a single shot 22 caliber handgun, which he hid under his jacket. When he arrived at Thierry's place, a one-room apartment under the roof of an old building, he knocked on the door and gave the fake first name that Nico had given him on Minitel. Obviously, didn't use his real name. Yeah. When Thierry opened the door, Nico stepped inside, quickly turned around while Thierry was closing the door, and pulled out the gun. So, quote, I looked at his face just as he turned his head towards me and saw the gun pointed at his eye. After a few awkward moments passed, awkward is an interesting choice of phrase there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gun pointed to your head. Well, this is awkward.
Thierry's just like, I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing, pal?
Yeah. Oh, come on, mate.
Come on.
I'm here for some bondage, not this shit.
I just wanted sex and now I've got a gun to my head. What's going on? And he's just like...
I mean, to be fair, it could potentially be a little bit awkward. Like, if you've got, like, you know, maybe a kidnap or whatever fantasy, and he's been talking about BDSM and bondage, pulls a gun out, you're there like, wait, is this part of it?
Yeah.
Have we started already? Or are you actually... Oh, no, you're serious. You want to kill...
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to, you know, clear that up now that we're clarified, I will become scared.
Yeah.
Apologies. Yeah, not sure what phrasing that was, but there we go. After a few awkward moments passed, I pulled the trigger. If you were confused, you're probably not anymore. He instantly fell face down without a word. It was really eerie. It all happened like in slow motion. Then I watched him bleed on the carpet. Soon I decided to see what the apartment was like and wandered around a bit. When I returned to where he was lying, I observed that he was still moving and making horrible breathing noises on the floor, like if he was breathing through a straw. I reloaded the gun and shot again, this time striking him in the back of the head. I reloaded and fired a few more times, but he was still alive and making noise. I was surprised that he was holding on. I had expected the first shot to kill him. Which is fair, but then you've shot him in the back of the head and he's still alive. So, wow.
That's outrageous.
Right?
Fuck yeah.
Like, Thierry really wants to live. So Nico said, quote, after a few minutes, I went into his kitchen and found some cookies to eat, and then sat in the corner of the room and watched him as I ate. When I was finished, I decided to get out of there quickly, so I shot him one last time in the back.
Oh my God, man.
I also lifted a huge plant container and smashed it on his head, crushing it some. I then wiped down my fingerprints, picked up his checkbook, a credit card and a wallet with his ID papers, his driving licence, an alarm clock and an answering machine, and finally left the scene.
Jesus.
Thierry Bissonnier's body remained on the floor of his apartment for 3 days, until his parents, distraught at not being able to get in contact with him, went to his apartment and discovered the grisly scene. One of the first investigators to arrive at the scene was Brigade Criminel investigator Gilbert Teal, I think is how you say that.
Okay.
So apologies if that's wrong. As shocking as the murder appeared, it was nothing new to Teal. The victim was one of many homosexuals murdered every year in Paris. And that month alone, there had already been 7 others in almost identical circumstances. Wow. According to the Agence France Presse, homosexual murders represent about a third of all the murders in Paris. The victims usually have the same profile and similar habits, including a liberal view on sexuality, which incorporates risks as part of the ultimate pleasure. So essentially, he wasn't looking at this as anything new. It looked, like a standard killing of a homosexual man they had seen quite a lot in that time period. Rightly or wrongly, shouldn't have made that assumption, but, that's how it...
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if you can hear the dog barking.
Tanker's going crazy or something.
I believe it's because Amazon's outside, so I'm just going to wait a minute for that to stop. Sweet. So, Nico, potentially, because of, this spate of homosexual killings, could have gotten away with Thierry's murder. But he made one very crucial mistake, as killers are often known to do.
Oh, yeah.
In mid-October, Clow attempted to forge one of Bissonnier's bank checks to buy a VCR. When asked for identification, he presented the shop clerk with Bissonnier's driving licence, which he had attempted to forge by putting his own picture. Obviously, he didn't do it very well, because the scam was quickly noticed when the clerk compared the signatures. Nico took off before the police arrived, but obviously, it was enough to trigger the search for him.
Yeah.
Them to have drawn some conclusions. On the 15th of November 1994, Nico was arrested in front of the Moulin Rouge, following an altercation with a woman.
What a place to get arrested.
Right? If you're going to do it, do it in front of something major.
Right. Jeez.
I would, if I knew I was going to get arrested, I'd immediately head to some big...
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
So the police obviously recognised him from the photograph on Thierry's forged driving licence, and while under custody, he confessed to the murder, when he was shown the ballistic evidence that essentially was going to prove that it was him, he confessed to it all. Further investigation showed that he had been robbing the graves of several Parisian Gothic graveyards, stealing the bones and mutilating the mummified remains. When asked the reason why he was storing stolen blood bags inside his refrigerator, he answered simply that he, quote, drank it on a regular basis. He also confessed to being on a very special diet and went on to describe the mortuary job and the...
Right. Okay. The
So,
carnivore diet.
As is standard when you are arrested, not that I would know, Mum and Dad, if you're listening, I have no idea. You obviously get asked if you've got any dietary requirements, and his answer was basically, yeah, I'm on a special diet. I'm gonna need to eat your leg.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay. I meant, do you eat fish or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. They're like,
but yeah, that was his response.
They're like, do you have any dietary requirements, or do you have any like special requests? And he's like, people. And then he's just like deadpan, just like people. And he's like, and then the officers are like, I mean, we meant, are you like gluten free?
Oh no. No, I'm fine with gluten, whatever. So for the next 2 years, obviously he's fully arrested, like he's confessed everything, then let him go. So for the next 2 years, Clow says a court-ordered team of specialist psychiatrists and psychologists examined him, as you would when someone's confessed to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dozens of tests were made, which in the end he says revealed a borderline psychotic personality disorder. Again.
Unsurprising.
Bonjour. In addition, Clow says that the experts also diagnosed him as suffering from necrophilia and sexual sadism. We don't part in common. Maybe the sexual sadism, but not the necrophilia part. I didn't put this in my notes, and I don't know why, because it was literally like the best thing that I read about this entire thing. At the end of the main interview that was done with him, he did like a mini, you know how they do in like, I don't know, Cosmo or whatever, where you do like this or that. It's like questions like quick fire. They did that with him. And one of the questions was, did you ever sleep with any of the corpses? And his response was, yeah, so what? That was it. And that was all he said about necrophilia. And I was like, okay. You make me feel weird for asking.
Yeah, exactly. I bet the interview was just like, I just asked a question, mate. Like,
it's crazy.
Right.
He was just like, yeah, so?
He's just like, yeah, everybody does. Right.
Corpse and what?
Right. He goes to like the camera guy. Everybody does. Right?
Right? Come on, guys.
Camera crew's just like, just stop. Let's just stop this now.
So yeah, but despite all of that, they did not detect any psychic or neuropsychic disorders, which could have interfered, with his like discernment or his control of his actions. So if it was not guilty by reason of insanity plea, it wouldn't have worked. After being presented with essentially copious amounts of evidence, given that, you know, his fingerprints were all over the crime scene, no matter how well he tidied up, blood bags in his fridge, etc., etc. Jurors in the case deliberated for just 3 hours. Nicholas Clow was found guilty of premeditated murder, armed robbery, fraudulent use of a bank check, falsification of a driver's license photo, and an attempt to defraud the retailer of the video camera. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison. So you'll notice in that list, there was nothing about corpses.
No.
Or eating corpses.
No.
Or drinking blood.
No.
That's because he was never convicted of any of those things.
How?
Well, so in terms of the grave robbery and of the eating people part, there was no evidence. There was no physical evidence. It was all what he told them. There was no evidence at the graves. They couldn't go back to look at that. In terms of the bodies, obviously, they would have then been taken and either buried or cremated. So there was no way to tell if, flesh had been gone. And presumably the hospital never prosecuted for theft of the blood bags, or he never told them which hospital he got them from, therefore nothing was brought on either. So the only things he was charged with was to do with the murder, which they could prove was definitely him, and anything related to being fraudulent with Thierry's documents, which
That's
obviously
insane.
they had physical evidence of. So he was never actually convicted of mutilation of a corpse or anything like that. Because basically you can't just prosecute someone for something they said they did.
No, true.
There has to be some sort of evidence, and there wasn't any.
That's yeah, wow. That's wild.
It is crazy. Not as crazy as this, though, because after serving just 7 years and 4 months of his 12-year sentence, Nico Claux was released from prison on March the 22nd, 2002 for good behaviour.
Yeah.
So what are we supposed to make of that short prison sentence? I think it is a tough one because, again, the only evidence in this case relates to him robbing and murdering him, which he did. That happened. There were obviously online conversations, there are paper trails relating to the murder being premeditated, ballistic evidence, crime scene photos, all points to him having actually done all of the other stuff. So, as we said, all of the cannibalism, stealing blood. He claimed to have done satanic rituals in the mausoleums, raiding the graves and eating parts of the cadavers. Was never actually proven. And the only thing that police or anyone indeed had to go on was the stories that Nico himself had told, because he was always alone.
Yeah.
There was no, as I say, physical evidence from the bodies. So he's a murderer.
Yes.
100%. But whether or not he is a cannibal, a necrophiliac, a grave robber, we can only really take his word for it. But then, of course, you do have to question the sanity of a man who says that himself and it not be true.
Yeah. It's a tough one, isn't it? When you have to take someone at their word.
Yeah.
It's difficult, isn't it?
It is difficult.
To sort of really confirm if what they're saying is the truth. Because like you said, if he's not, I mean, obviously he's not all right up there. Might be a sandwich short of a picnic. Maybe the whole picnic basket short of a picnic. But
yeah,
like, because of that, he might be very good at telling a story. And obviously if you have to believe him at his word, then he can be like knowingly lying to you, but you're going to have to believe it because it's coming from him and there's nothing else to confirm it.
Exactly that. Whatever is true or not true about his version of events, he's certainly not one to shy away from the media that surrounded the case, from, I guess, kind of serial killer culture in general. One thing that I think you would probably do if you were a convicted murderer, you wouldn't admit that you were into, certainly not, killers, other murderers, Satanism. He's very big on Satanism. He's quite into demonology and things like that. And he promotes that. He's very much on social media explaining that he is still into that. After leaving prison, he set up a website to promote his paintings of serial killers, and basically just macabre sort of artwork. I saw some of these are on display at the serial killer exhibition, the World Tour in London. Some of his paintings are on display. Some of the other bits and pieces that he does. There was a necklace made out of human bones, that kind of thing. That's what he now promotes and sells. That's how he makes his living. He's written books. He wrote a book called The Cannibal's Cookbook. He's curated books that consist of letters that were written to Jeffrey Dahmer in prison. He avidly expresses being a huge fan of Izzy Zagawa, who is the Kobe cannibal, who we also did an episode on. Go back and listen to that if you're interested. And he's not shy about these
Yeah.
things, they are very much still in the public eye. He served his time for the murder and he came out and is unashamedly into what he's into. He says of his website, quote, "This website is my only official website. The other unofficial sites you might find online focus on a past that I am now a long way away from. I have worked hard to improve myself through the development of my artistic abilities. I cannot erase the past, but my goal is to channel the negativity that I have caused into pure creativity. I do not endorse any other sites other than this one. I do not profit from my past, and I do not encourage other people into doing the things that I have done. The spiritual and social prices are the spiritual and social prices to pay are far too high."
Yeah.
So yeah, he's out and about,
Yeah.
living his life, making his art and selling it. Make of that what you will.
Yeah. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because you could say, going from that last statement, you could say that he's distanced himself from the past and he's not encouraging people, and he's not like, loud and proud. And you could also say he served his time. So
Which he did. He got out for good behaviour.
Yeah.
It's not like he got out on a technicality or anything like that. He was a good prisoner and therefore was released early as a result of it. I think if, for example, his passion, I guess, was anything other than serial killers. If, for example, he came out and started a dog sanctuary, I think a lot of people would say, okay, he did a bad thing, but overall he's a good and he's channeling whatever anger, whatever energy he's got into something good.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that the thing that he's really passionate about and into is serial killers and true crime and demonology. And I personally wouldn't want to criticize anyone for that.
No, and I mean, let's be honest, we would be hypocrites if we did.
It would be incredibly hypocritical if we did, exactly.
So, but, it's not like he sort of came out and then immediately went back to, digging up corpses and went back to necrophilia and went back to this and went back to that. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because in some ways you can't really hold someone's past against them, but then considering what their past is, maybe you should. It's difficult, isn't it?
It is. It's a very difficult one. And it's not the sort of ending that we're used to covering.
Yeah.
We're not used to covering killers that get out of prison at all, because most of the time they don't. And B, go on to live a relatively normal life, but also in the public eye.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons that he looks, I don't know if looks up to is the right phrasing, but one of the people he thinks about is Izagawa, because that's exactly what happened with him. He served, granted, not the right amount of time, but he certainly served time for his crime and was released, and then had to make a life out of being known as a cannibal. So he did the only thing he really could do to make money, which was write books, do whatever appearances he could and sign things as a cannibal, because he couldn't escape that. Nico obviously has said, I don't do that anymore. That is not something that I want to be associated with. But he still makes artwork about killers. The subject of his artwork is serial killers, and arguably I wouldn't have even known he existed if it hadn't been for the fact that he committed a crime and now his artwork is involved in a killer exhibition. So it is a tough one, and it's difficult as well because he was never convicted of the cannibalism or of anything really other than the murder and the fraudulent stuff. So not that you want to say, oh, it's all made up and it's all bullshit, but if it is, then really he is just a man who made a mistake when it came to the murder, isn't going to do it again, doesn't want to do it again,
Yeah.
hasn't got that impulse anymore, and is trying to make something of his life having served his sentence. And it's one of these things as well, isn't it, that having thoughts of cannibalism, and this is in no way an admission, right? I don't want anyone in the comments being like, oh my God, Amy's a cannibal, Amy wants to fuck corpses. I don't. It is not where my proclivities are. I've got some pretty sick kinks, but those don't fall into it. But necrophilia, cannibalism, having those urges within you, in your mind, isn't illegal. It's acting on them that is.
Yeah.
Acting on those things is what makes you a criminal. It's what makes you a bad person, essentially. And if he's out and now not acting on those, then have we really got any right to judge how he lives his life? You know, we as outsiders can only really get involved if he's committing the acts that are associated with those feelings. If he's just having the feelings, we can't get inside his head and stop him doing that.
Yeah.
You know, granted, there might be underlying medical conditions, psychiatric conditions that are treatable, but having those thoughts isn't, you know, we're not the thought police. You can't stop someone having those thoughts. It's the actions that are prosecutable, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really like his paintings.
I need to have a look.
I'm going to put that out there as well. They're very good.
I need to have a
look. They're very stylized. He has a style.
Yeah.
But yeah, really good. I would happily have one on the wall. So just putting that out there, you know, it's fine. And like I said, I don't agree with all of the stuff that he either did or said that he did. I'm not into any of that. That's not something I would ever condone if you've actually taken.
Absolutely not.
Like I say, if you committed the actions based on those thoughts, I will never be behind that. But I've got a little bit of a crush on him. And we've got a lot in common. I love The Exorcist. I'm into demons.
Yeah.
I love serial killers and talking about them. I love going to cemeteries. Granted, I don't rob the graves. But I love going to cemeteries. I love looking at, you know, I love anything to do with death. I'm fascinated by it. So, Nico, if you are listening to this, which there is a high potential that you will be at some point because you are no doubt someone that Googles yourself, then hit me up. Hi.
He
nice
absolutely Googles himself 100%.
And on that note, I will hand over to you, Dom, to wrap up.
Thank you. It was an interesting one. We don't really cover cannibalism that often. Obviously, we cover murderers and all of that stuff quite a lot. But
yeah, and I just realised that anytime we do, it's me that brings it up. So apologies.
No, that's true. Actually, I think every cannibalism episode has been yours. Which
sorry, guys,
might say something. Who knows?
Hungry.
but yeah, we hope you don't know if enjoyed. Found this interesting. Tolerated. Yeah, we hope you tolerated this episode and our bad jokes. But I'm not sure what I'm going to be talking about next week. I've got a few ideas, but I haven't sort of settled on something yet. So I'm still figuring out. But you're going to have to wait until next week to find out what that is. Until then, if you want to support us, there are many ways. You can follow us on Instagram, which is in the show notes. We will get better at answering DMs. I'm pretty sure they're like good beer, bad movie night messaged or DM'd like a month ago, and I haven't even read it, so I'm sorry. We will be better. But yeah, follow us on there. Feel free to slide in the messages if you've got any suggestions or you just want to say hi. You might get a response in 6 weeks, maybe.
If you're lucky.
If you want to support us on YouTube, you can by subscribing and liking and all of that good stuff. And also follow us on your podcast app of choice, whatever that may be. Leave a comment in the Spotify section, Q&A section. If you want to support us with some money, there's still the Buy Me a Coffee link as well, if you want to throw us a few quid. But for now, all that's left to say is until next time, stay very, very spooky.
Stay spooky.
And don't eat people.
No, don't eat people.
Amy's like, maybe.
Despite everything I've said during this episode, don't eat people. It's not a good idea.
Because if the police see a head in the fridge, might not go down well.
They're notoriously unhappy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is the one thing you can say about Dharma. He gave good head.
Oh God, that's where we'll end that.